Okay, so picture this. You're in the kitchen. Maybe you've got some special ingredients. You're following a recipe really carefully.
Okay.
And you're excited, right? But then the final thing, it flops. Maybe it's a cake that didn't rise or cookies that just taste, I don't know, weird. It's happened to most of us, I think. That feeling of disappointment, especially when you put in all that effort. Well, that kind of thing happens a lot when people first try making homemade cannabis edibles. It seems straightforward, but there are these little traps. So today we're going to look at those common mistakes people make with edibles, the things that lead to frustration, and, more importantly, how you can avoid them. We want your homemade treats to be, consistent, potent, predictable, and actually taste good. And we've got a fantastic guide for this. We're drawing on the experience of Mike Harmon, who might know as the 420 formulator from 420formulator.com. Mike's not just like a hobbyist. He brings this really unique mix of serious professional background and real hands-on cannabis know-how.
He really does. It's quite a combination, actually. His background is sort of perfectly suited for this. He's a retired cosmetologist. Now, that might sound unrelated at first, but think about it. For years, he was creating professional skincare products for spas, salons, really high-end stuff. Making a hand cream or a serum that works, feels good, and is stable, that takes incredible precision. You have to understand how ingredients work together, pH levels, everything. Exact measurements are key.
Ah, okay, so that formulation mindset, got it.
Exactly. And he brings that same kind of rigor to making edibles. But there's more. He's also a naturopath, which means he has this deep expert knowledge of essential oils, vegetable oils, the sort of building blocks for infusions, right? Both for wellness products and for edibles. He understands the plant compounds, how they behave, their therapeutic side. It's a holistic view.
So the science side and the natural wellness side combined.
Precisely. And then you add in his own long-term experience using cannabis. He gets it from the user perspective, too. He has this really practical take, like CBD is great for managing pain, he finds, and THC. Well, THC makes things more fun. It's balanced, practical, no hype.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about today isn't theory. It's not from a textbook. It's based on Mike's actual experience, the stuff he learned, as he puts it, the hard way. So you don't have to repeat those mistakes.
That's the goal. We want to distill his really practical, useful advice, how to avoid those common edible mess-ups. It's about making sure your homemade stuff is potent, tastes good, and crucially, consistent. You want to know what you're getting each time, right?
Absolutely. Predictability is key. Okay, so let's dive in. The first big mistake Mike flags, and this is a huge one, maybe the most fundamental, is messing up decarboxylation or decarbing. So many people, and I'll admit I did this way back when, just skip over understanding this step, or they get it wrong. Mike learned this the hard way too. He saw that question everywhere online. Why do my edibles suck? And so often, the answer came back to messing up the decarb, usually overheating. It seems simple, but it's tricky.
It really is tricky. And it's step one, absolutely essential. Because decarboxylation, well, it's just applying heat, but it's specific heat. It's what converts the non-psychoactive stuff in the plant, like THCA and CBDA, into the compounds we actually want, THC and CBD. Without that heat, the plant stays in its acidic form. THCA doesn't really get you high. CBDA has some benefits, but not the main ones people seek from CBD.
So no heat, no effect, basically.
Pretty much. You're just eating raw plant material, which isn't the goal for most edible makers. Heat is the switch that turns on the potential. Now, the problem Mike ran into, and that lots of people face, is first, home ovens are, well, notoriously unreliable temperature-wise. You set it for, say, 240 Fahrenheit, but inside, they could be swinging 20, 30, even 50 degrees hotter or cooler as the element cycles. It's not stable.
Right, I've heard that. Those thermostats aren't exactly precision instruments.
Not at all. And the second part of the problem is this idea that hotter must be better or faster. People think, oh, I'll just crank it up to 350 and get it done quick, but that's a huge mistake. THC, the main compound most people want, actually starts to break down, to degrade, at temperatures starting around 314 Fahrenheit, which is 157 Celsius. So if you go too high, or leave it in too long, even at a slightly high temp, you're not activating more THC, you're destroying it. Burning it off, along with all those fragile terpenes that give flavor and aroma.
Ah, okay. So there's the sweet spot, and going over it is counterproductive.
Totally counterproductive. Mike has this great warning sign he mentions. If your cannabis starts to smell like burnt popcorn, you've gone way too far.
Burnt popcorn. That's pretty
very clear. At that point, your cannabinoids are likely toast, maybe converted into CBN, which makes you sleepy but isn't THC, or just evaporated. It's why so many first batches are weak and taste bad.
Okay, that burnt popcorn smell is a definite red flag. So knowing ovens are tricky and heat destroys the good stuff, what did Mike figure out? What are his practical fixes? How do you get it right?
Right, so he developed some really simple, practical solutions, things anyone can do. The first, and honestly maybe the most important, is get a standalone oven thermometer.
Just a cheap one you put inside the oven.
Exactly. Stick it inside where you can see it through the glass door. That way you know the actual temperature in there, not just what the oven dial claims. It takes out so much guesswork. It's a tiny investment for a huge payoff in consistency.
Makes sense. Know your real temperature.
What else? Second, preheat your oven properly. Like, really let it sit at the target temperature for a good while, maybe 20, 30 minutes even. Don't just wait for the light to go off.
Give it time to stabilize.
Yeah, exactly. Ovens fluctuate, especially at the beginning, and opening the door drops the temp, so let it settle completely before you put your cannabis in. Stability is key for even heating.
Okay, thermometer, proper preheat. Then what about the actual cannabis?
So, grind your cannabis, not too fine, like coarse breadcrumbs. Spread it evenly on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Don't pile it up. You want a single, thin layer so the heat gets to all of it evenly.
Thin layer, even heat. Got it.
And then this is a great tip from Mike's. Cover it loosely with aluminum foil. Just tent it over.
Oh, interesting. Why the foil?
Two main reasons. First, it helps trap some of those volatile terpenes, the compounds responsible for smell and flavor, keeping them from just evaporating away. Second, it protects the cannabis from direct radiant heat from the oven element, preventing scorching. Creates a little convection environment.
Clever. Traps terpenes, prevents burning.
Yep. And finally, Mike says, trust your nose, but know what you're smelling for. A light, toasty, maybe slightly nutty or herbal smell, that's good. That means decarbing is happening, but the moment you get that burnt popcorn smell, pull it out immediately. You've gone too far. He admits he made that mistake early on, ignored the smell, and ended up with brownies that tasted like, well, ash and damn nothing.
Yeah. Lesson learned.
Definitely. It's a fine line, but using the thermometer, the foil, and your nose really reduces the chances of messing it up. He also mentions that things like sous vide offer even better temp control, but oven decarb is accessible, and these tips make it work well.
Okay, that's super helpful for decarbing. So let's say you've nailed the decarb. What's the next big hurdle Mike talks about? It's the potency puzzle, right? That thing where one time your edible does nothing, and the next time the same type knocks you flat out. Couch locked for 12 hours, as Mike puts it.
Exactly. That inconsistency is incredibly frustrating. You want a reliable experience, not a lottery ticket.
So why does that happen so often? What causes that huge variation?
Well, Mike boils it down to two main things, and they're usually linked. First is not knowing your starting material. If you're getting your cannabis from, say, a friend or somewhere it's not tested and labeled, you just don't know the actual THC percentage. Or even the CBD percentage.
Right. It could be strong flower, or it could be weaker trim or shake. Big difference.
Huge difference. A gram of flower at 20% THC has twice the potential punch as a gram of shake at 10% THC. If you don't know that starting number, you're flying blind from the get-go. Mike really recommends using flower from known genetics you grow yourself or from a licensed source where it's labeled. That gives you a solid starting point.
Okay, so knowing the strength of your weed is step one. What's the second reason for inconsistency?
Skipping the math. This is where a lot of people just sort of wave their hands and guess. Mike is very clear. Skipping the maths or guessing can lead to wildly unpredictable outcomes.
People get intimidated by calculations in the kitchen, maybe?
I think so. It seems complicated, but it's the only way to actually control the dose. You know, treating all cannabis the same, just throwing an amount in without figuring out the milligrams of THC you're actually adding, that's a recipe for random results.
Right. So Mike's solution is pretty blunt. It's best to do the numbers. Can you walk us through how he breaks that down, make it less scary?
Yeah, absolutely. His approach is really practical. Let's use his example. Say you have 1 gram of flower, and you know it's 20% THC. Okay, so 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams. 20% of 1,000 milligrams is 200 milligrams. So that gram starts with 200 milligrams of THCA.
Okay, simple percentage, 200 milligram THCA.
Right. Now, when you decarb it, you lose a little bit. It's not a perfect conversion, and some might degrade slightly, even with careful heating. Mike estimates about an 80% retention rate is typical for oven decarbing. It can vary, but it's a good working number.
So 80% of that 200 milligrams?
Yep. 80% of 200 is 160 milligrams. So after decarbing, your gram of flower now contains roughly 160 milligrams of activated THC.
Okay, I'm following. 160 milligrams THC per gram of starting flower.
Exactly. Now, let's say you infuse that into some butter or oil, and you mix that butter into a batch of brownie batter, and you plan to cut those brownies into 10 equal servings. The math is simple now. 160 milligrams of total THC divided by 10 servings.
It's a 16 milligrams of THC per brownie.
Bingo. Now you know. Each brownie is approximately 16 milligram. That gives you incredible clarity and control. You can aim for a specific dose. Maybe you want 5 milligram microdoses, or maybe 25 milligrams for a stronger effect. You just adjust the math based on your flower potency and number of servings.
That suddenly makes it seem way less random.
It completely removes the guesswork. Mike points out the mental block about math is often worse than the math itself. Once you do it, it makes sense. And it's crucial if you use stronger stuff like concentrates. Imagine using a gram of 70% THC wax.
Whoa, yeah. That's 700 milligram THC to start, so maybe 560 milligram THC after decarb.
Exactly. Divide that by 10 servings, and suddenly each brownie is 56 milligrams. Huge difference from 16 milligram. You absolutely need to know those numbers.
Okay, the math is essential. Now, Mike has a really simple, but probably often forgotten top tip related to this, doesn't he? For keeping track once you've made them.
Oh, yeah. This is classic Mike practical and learned from experience. His top tip is label your batches. Put the strength per serving and the date you made it right on the container.
Seems obvious, but I bet loads of people don't do it.
Totally. He admits he didn't at first. You make a few batches, maybe different strength, stick them in the fridge or freezer. A week later, you have no idea which is which. Are these the 10 milligram gummies or the 25 milligram heavy hitters? When did I even make these?
Yeah, I can see that happening easily, leading to surprises.
Exactly. He tells a story about accidentally eating a super strong brownie meant for pain relief on a casual evening and ending up glued to the sofa for hours, wishing he'd labeled it. A simple label, brownies, 16 milligram THC serving, made June 27, avoids all that confusion. You'll thank yourself later.
For sure. It's like basic kitchen organization, but with an extra layer of importance. Okay, so we've covered decarbing and potency. What about taste? That's another big one Mike addresses. The flavor faux pas. His example is spot on. Sometimes homemade edibles taste like you mowed the lawn and baked the clippings into your brownie. That grassy, sometimes bitter, weedy taste. Nobody wants that.
No, definitely not. It can really ruin the enjoyment. And Mike explains why it happens. Cannabis naturally has these strong aromatic compounds called terpenes. They give different strains their unique smells: pine, citrus, earth, spice. When you infuse cannabis into fat, like butter or oil, you extract the cannabinoids really well, but you also pull out a lot of those terpenes and some chlorophyll, especially if you grind it too fine or use too much heat during infusion.
So the infusion process itself captures those flavors.
Yes, it does. And the mistake people often make is trying to pair that infused oil or butter with really delicate flavors, like plain vanilla or maybe a light fruit flavor. Mike calls it the funk. Those subtle flavors just get overwhelmed by the strong, earthy, sometimes bitter cannabis notes. Sometimes the contrast even makes the cannabis taste more pronounced, more green.
So vanilla brownies might taste more weedy than, say, chocolate ones.
Often, yes. That's why Mike's main advice for flavor is to go bold. Don't try to hide the cannabis taste with weak flavors. Choose strong flavors that can stand up to it or complement it.
Like what? What works well?
For sweet things, he suggests dark chocolate. It's intense, rich, slightly bitter itself, and it pairs really well with earthy notes. Peanut butter is another great one, very strong, coats the palate. Also strong spices. Think cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, cardamom, like in a chai spice blend. Those complex spice notes can meld beautifully with the cannabis profile.
Okay, dark chocolate, peanut butter, strong spices. What about savory edibles?
Same principle. Go bold. Things like roasted garlic, strong herbs like rosemary, potent cheeses, spicy chilies, flavors that have their own personality and won't get drowned out.
Makes sense. Work with the flavor, don't fight it with weak partners. Any other tricks for taste?
Well, he mentions water curing the cannabis first. This involves soaking the bud in water for several days, changing the water regularly. It can leach out some chlorophyll and harsher tasting compounds.
Does it work?
It can reduce the grassy taste, yeah. But Mike includes a big caveat. You might also wash away some of the water-soluble terpenes, which contribute to the overall effect, and aroma, the entourage effect, and maybe even some minor cannabinoids.
So it's a trade-off. Better taste, maybe less nuanced effect.
Potentially, yes. He generally prefers to manage flavor through pairings and proper prep, rather than stripping things away, which leads to his other points. Make sure your starting cannabis is well-dried and cured. That process itself reduces harshness. And crucially, strain your infused oil or butter meticulously, like really well. Use multiple layers of cheesecloth or a fine nut milk bag. Any little bits of plant matter left behind will make it taste grassy and gritty. No one likes a gritty texture, he says.
Good point. Smooth infusion, better taste.
Yeah.
Now, for gummies specifically, Mike has a neat little top tip for flavor, doesn't he?
He does. This is one of the 420 formulators' clever fixes. For gummies, which can sometimes really carry that cannabis taste, his tip is simple. Add a splash of lemon extract.
Lemon extract.
Really? Yeah. He found it does a remarkably good job of cutting through or masking that grassy, earthy undertone without completely taking over the gummy's intended flavor. Lemon is bright, acidic, cleanses the palate. It just seems to neutralize the funk really effectively.
Huh. That's a great little kitchen hack. Okay, so we've tackled decarb, potency, and flavor. What's next on Mike's list of common mistakes?
The distribution disaster.
Ah, yes. Where one cookie gets you lifted, the next one's a dud. So frustrating. It makes you doubt the whole batch, even your baking skills.
Totally undermines confidence. And Mike learned this one, like the others, through frustrating experiences. You share edibles with friends, one person feels it strongly, another feels nothing from the same batch. The reason is usually pretty simple mechanics. Cannabis-infused oil or butter, especially if it starts to cool or isn't properly integrated, doesn't always stay evenly mixed in a batter or mixture. It can separate slightly or just not get dispersed uniformly.
So if you don't mix it well enough, the THC ends up clumped in certain spots.
Exactly. You get these hot spots with a high concentration of cannabinoids and other areas that are basically non-infused. Lazy stirring, rushing the mixing step, that's usually the culprit. It's like not stirring your soup properly. Some spoonfuls are watery, others are thick.
Okay, so the solution sounds obvious, but how does Mike recommend ensuring it's really mixed properly?
His advice is pretty direct. Mix like your life depends on it. Seriously, once you add your infused oil or butter, let it cool slightly first, so it's liquid but not boiling hot. You need to stir it into your batter thoroughly. He recommends mixing for a solid 2 or 3 minutes, not just until it looks combined, but really working it in there. Use a whisk or an electric mixer on low speed to really disperse those fat molecules throughout the entire batter. Every bite should have an equal chance of containing the active ingredients.
2 to 3 minutes of dedicated mixing. That's more than most people probably do.
Probably. But it's crucial for consistency. And he has specific advice for gummies because mixing oil into a water-based gelatin mix is trickier.
Right. Oil and water don't naturally mix.
Exactly. So for gummies, you need to create an emulsion. Mike says to add your infused oil to the warm gelatin mixture over low heat and whisk it continuously until it's fully emulsified. You want those oil droplets to be tiny and evenly suspended throughout the gelatin.
Does he recommend anything to help with that? Like an emulsifier?
He mentions that sometimes adding a small amount of an emulsifier like lecithin, sunflower or soy, can really help stabilize the mixture and prevent the oil from separating out as it cools. Constant whisking over low heat is key, though. You're physically forcing the oil and water to combine and stay combined.
Okay, thorough mixing, emulsification for gummies.
Yeah.
Then, once it's perfectly mixed, how do you make sure the portions are consistent? What's Mike's tip there?
This is where precision comes in again, right down to the end. Mike learned this after cutting brownies unevenly and realizing the doses were all over the place. His top tip is about portioning. Use individual silicone baking molds or cut baked goods into precisely equal sizes.
The silicone molds, like for muffins or chocolates.
Exactly. If you pour your perfectly mixed batter into individual molds, each mold gets roughly the same amount of batter, assuming you filled them evenly. That automatically gives you consistent doses per piece. Plus, silicone is non-stick, so easy removal.
And if you're baking in a big pan, like brownies.
Then you need to be meticulous about cutting. Don't just eyeball it, use a ruler. Mark out your grid before you cut to ensure every single piece is the same size. Because even with perfectly mixed batter, a bigger piece will have a bigger dose.
Makes total sense. Precision matters from start to finish.
Absolutely. Mike says precision doesn't just look good, it ensures consistent dosing. It's about controlling every variable you can. It really makes you think about how much basic kitchen technique matters when potency is involved.
It really does. Okay, we've covered decarb, potency, flavor, and distribution. That brings us to the final mistake Mike highlights, which is just heartbreaking after all that work, the storage snafu. Putting in all that effort only to have your beautiful edibles go moldy or lose their potency sitting on the counter. Mike calls wasting cannabis truly a tragedy, and it really is.
It's so disappointing. You nail everything else and then they spoil or just stop working. Mike definitely experienced this, finding mold on cookies left out too long or noticing older edibles just didn't have the same kick. And there are solid reasons why proper storage is crucial. First, your homemade edibles don't have the preservatives that store-bought ones often do. They're basically fresh food items susceptible to mold and bacteria, especially if they contain moisture, like gummies or some baked goods, and are left at room temperature.
Right, they're perishable.
Exactly. But just as importantly, the cannabinoids themselves degrade over time. THC is sensitive stuff. It breaks down when exposed to its enemies: air, heat, and light.
Air, heat, and light. Okay.
Air causes oxidation, breaking down the THC molecule. Heat speeds up chemical reactions, potentially converting THC to CBN, which is less psychoactive. And light, especially UV light like sunlight, causes photodegradation. It just destroys THC molecules.
So leaving them in a Ziploc bag on the counter is basically the worst thing you can do.
Pretty much. Mike says it isn't cutting it. A plastic bag offers almost no protection from air, light, or temperature changes. Your edibles will go stale, lose potency fast, and potentially grow mold. It's a complete waste.
So what's the right way? What's Mike's practical advice for keeping them fresh and potent?
He has clear guidelines, drawing on his background in preserving sensitive formulations. First rule: use airtight containers. Always. Glass jars with good seals, quality food-grade plastic containers, minimize air exposure.
Okay, airtight is step one. Fridge or counter?
For anything you'll use within, say, a week or maybe up to a month, depending on the item, the refrigerator's good. The cool temperature slows down both microbial growth and cannabinoid degradation. Keep baked goods, gummies, chocolates in an airtight container in the fridge.
And for longer storage.
Freezer. The freezer is your best friend for longevity. Properly wrapped and stored in an airtight container, most edibles can last up to 3 months, sometimes longer, in the freezer. Freezing dramatically slows everything down. It's great for infused butter, oils, gummies, cookies.
What about vacuum sealing? Is that worth it?
Mike says if you're serious about long-term storage, especially for larger batches, vacuum sealing is excellent. It removes almost all the oxygen, hitting that degradation factor hard. It really helps preserve potency and freshness.
Okay, airtight, fridge, freezer, maybe vacuum seal. What about the light issue?
Crucial point. Keep them away from light. Store containers in a dark cupboard or pantry or inside the fridge freezer. For things like infused oils or butter, using dark glass jars, amber or cobalt blue, adds an extra layer of protection against UV rays. THC really dislikes light.
Got it. Protect from air, heat, and light. Seems like standard food storage, but with extra care for the cannabinoids.
That's exactly it. Applying good food preservation principles saves your hard work and ensures your edibles are still good when you want them.
So what's Mike's ultimate top tip for storage? For making it super convenient and long-lasting?
This is the 420 Formulator's fix for convenience, and it's brilliant. He recommends wrapping individual portions in parchment paper, then freezing them together in an airtight container or bag.
Individual portions. Why is that so good?
2 reasons. The parchment stops them sticking together, so you can easily grab just 1 or 2 servings without defrosting the whole lot. And by only taking out what you need, you minimize temperature fluctuations and air light exposure for the rest of the batch.
Smart. Keeps the rest pristine for longer.
Exactly. It makes it super easy to just pop one out whenever you want it, knowing it's still fresh and potent. It maximizes shelf life and user convenience. It's amazing how these simple food storage tricks can make such a big difference for homemade edibles.
It really is. Wow. Okay, so that covers the 5 big mistakes: decarbing, potency, flavor, distribution, and storage. It feels like Mike Harmon's approach from 420formulator.com is just so real. It's practical, grounded in his own trial and error. Knowing he went through the total train wrecks, as he calls them, and figured out these fixes is really encouraging. It shows that making reliable, consistent homemade edibles isn't some impossible dream. You just need to avoid these common pitfalls.
Absolutely. It's not about magic. It's about understanding the process and paying attention to detail. And when you do that, like Mike shows, you move beyond frustration and guesswork. And I think connecting it to the bigger picture, there's a real satisfaction in that, isn't there? It's not just about getting the effects you want. It's about mastering a craft, creating something high quality yourself, knowing you can reliably produce something that meets your exact needs. That knowledge is empowering.
Totally agree. That feeling of competence and self-sufficiency is huge. And if you want to dive deeper into Mike's world and get more of this kind of practical advice, you really should visit 420formulator.com.
His blog there is just packed with information, not just edibles, but also which essential oils work well with cannabis, best vegetable oils for infusions, and tons of actual formulations, professional level recipes for hand creams, body butters, serums, lotions, all sorts of infused products you can make at home.
Yeah, it's a fantastic resource for anyone interested in DIY cannabis creations, whether topical or edible. Really detailed, practical stuff.
Definitely. So whether you're just starting out with edibles or want to level up your game, hopefully learning from the 420 Formulators experience helps you avoid those common stumbles and enjoy the process and the results a whole lot more. Thanks for tuning in today. Keep experimenting, keep learning, and happy formulating.